it's one of those things that is both comical and annoying, where where sometimes guys get into a sort of foolish but comical one-upmanship attitude, and which I never really like personally, but it's there, it exists, it's a real thing. And with Grug, the thing that he really has to offer is his strength, but more importantly, his gigantic heart and his love for family. That's his true strength, but also his physical strength. And if there's anything that he can show off, it's that, his brawn. Whereas Phil is the much more, Peter's character is a much more sophisticated, thoughtful. His strength is his sophistication, his thoughts, but he has all the fun stuff. He has all the toys, all the gadgets. The elevator, the so-called window, which becomes a kind of mock version of the computer screen. The dining room table, the house with the tree, the view, the tree house. I mean, the so-called man cave, all these things which he can sort of one up Grug with, develops a very comical dynamic. And in terms of the bromance, which is not a word I normally use, but it's definitely very much on display here. The idea that initial tension transforms into true love for one another, because that they are protecting each other now when they're in the wild, when they're contending with all the different punch monkeys, and when they're contending with the giant scary King Kong like monkey. They have to really they have to unite, and they have to combine their individual strengths so that they can survive. And it's funny because of their differences. That's what makes the kind of the bromantic duo so comical, not unlike Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello. They come at it with different energies and different strengths, but they're a duo, and by the end of it, they're really best friends. And that's a nice storyline. That's a nice trajectory for people to enjoy, because sometimes you start off, many times in life, we start off meeting people that we don't like, and then wind up wondering, how did we just become best friends? Why is it the one that seems like the last person I would like is the one that becomes my best friend? Whereas the one that was so easy to like in the beginning winds up being not somebody I want to be with anymore because they were phony. Or something like that. The person that tells it like it is, gruff as it may be, more often than not becomes the person that you actually can trust. Well, I don't know if it's a better movie, but I do agree with you. It's a bigger movie, and I do think it's a funnier movie. I don't really know all that goes on to the development process and the thought that goes into it in a very collaborative and multidimensional process, bringing something like this to life. But I can tell you that when I prepare for this kind of a production, it's all about going into a tiny little box, which is kind of like being in an aquarium. And it's very claustrophobic, and it's very stifling, and you're in this little box, and of course you have all of DreamWorks behind on a big panel doing EQ and things like that, listening to everything you do and watching everything you do. So you're essentially a clownfish on display in a little aquarium, and for everyone to look at some sort of aquarium, like a Monterey, California coast aquarium or something. And you have to be cool because you don't want to be nervous, but you have to be able to go into a zone, literally a zone, a dimension, if you will, where you can access rhythms and vocal intonations and memories and things that all at once have to come to your fingertips so that you can perform. It is a performance. It is uniquely that, in that you don't really have other people, other actors to ping pong with. In this case, I did have Joel Crawford, the director, who was hilarious, ping ponging with me sometimes. But by and large, I have to go within to recall whatever it is I need to bring the funny and to bring the heartstrings and what it is, and it can really be abstract. I mean, it can be really far out. I could be channeling commercials that I remember watching on TV. I could be channeling strange people walking down the street that I recall. And I don't know what's going to come to me. I just know that the process for me is to give myself up over to it so that whatever I bring performance wise will deliver something either heartfelt or very funny. I really enjoyed the meltdown scene, dinner table scene with the bananas, and also there was the trying to figure out how we're going to contend in the kind of like road warrior showdown scene between Phil and Grug. How are we going to get out of this Spartan Spartacus-like dynamic and survive? And then, of course, I'm a big King Kong fan, so I love the huge monster ape and how we have to contend with that. I like all the animals. That's probably my favorite aspect of the Croods, the creativity. It's not unlike my memories of watching Yellow Submarine as a child, which I love so much. Probably my favorite animated movie of all time, that and Pinocchio. But Croods really embraces that kind of flavor. And of course, I still love my cat, my big cat. He's my favorite of all the Croodimals, as you call them. And but the Punch Monkeys, of course, are hilarious. Anything to do with water sequences, I'm always captivated by underwater sequences, particularly oceanic underwater sequences. I loved it in Pinocchio. I loved it in Finding Nemo, and I love it in the Croods. I just love to lose myself in those underwater sequences. Yeah, well, bananas. I don't think Grug knows this, but I'm assuming that he has some sense of how his body's feeling, and he's not a doctor and he's not a scientist, but he probably somewhere subconsciously, physiologically knows he needs potassium. So he loves bananas, and they're forbidden because they're actually offerings. The bananas are offerings to this King Kong force of nature that we have to contend with in the movie. And but I keep taking them and eating them, not knowing that I'm risking everyone's well-being, betterment and crude. And that's why they're forbidden. It's with the risk of sounding impossibly simple, happy. I want them to be happy. Happiness. Let's bring it. Let's all get together in our homes, or and watch this movie and get the popcorn, and let's have fun, and let's smile, and let's laugh, because it's not all doom and gloom. There are good things out there that we can be happy about and we can celebrate together. And I think Croods 2 is one of them.